I warned them, I really did. I sent the letters filed. The reports even stood right there in front of the whole HOA board and said, if you keep digging into that ridge, the mountain will come down. But they just laughed, called me paranoid, said I was just an old man with too many maps and too much time. Funny, isn't it, how fast they go silent when the world proves you right? That storm came roaring in, the ground groaned, and the ridge split wide open. 13 homes gone, 1 woman dead, and the folks responsible. Not a peep. You know what gets me? This isn't just about a landslide. It's about power, pride, and what happens when a community forgets how to listen. No one ever knocked. No calls, no courtesy, not even a lousy note on my door. That morning I woke up to the sound of diesel engines roaring behind my house. I stepped out onto my porch, coffee in hand, and the sunrise just barely lighting the sky, only to see excavators chewing right into the base of the old ridge that ran along my backyard. That ridge had been there before any of us older than the deeds, older than the dreams. Now a line of workers in orange vests were flagging stakes, directing trucks, tearing open what held us all together. Everything I'd warned them about was starting to unravel right in front of me. I've always lived on the edge, geographically sure, but also in spirit. Bought this place after I retired from the Army, 30 years, half with engineering battalions, the rest as a consultant for FEMA, specializing in exactly the kind of unstable land we're standing on. I've seen what happens when you disrespect the earth. I've seen slopes give way not because of rain or fate, but because of arrogance, folks with power paperwork and zero understanding of what's beneath their feet. That's exactly what this was, arrogance dressed up in an HOA logo and a permit signed in apathy. I walked the perimeter, heart pounding, watching as those machines gouged into the ridge's spine. That ridge wasn't just dirt, it was clay-old runoff veins, the natural backbone of our valley. It held memories, and they were tearing it up like it was a backyard flower bed. I cornered the site supervisor, a guy with arms crossed, sunglasses perched on his hat like he was the sheriff. Who authorized this? I asked. Didn't even look up. Talk to the HOA. I said I did multiple times. He just smirked, the kind contractors reserve for people they think are too old or too gentle to fight back. We're just following the plans. I leaned in. You're destabilizing a ridge during storm season. That's not a plan, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. He turned away and kept the dozers running. That night I wrote another letter. Not my first. Over 3 months I'd tried everything. Emails, calls, certified mail. Not a single reply. The HOA president, Linda Shepard, blew me off twice. The last time I tried to talk to her in person, she just laughed and said, "You've lived too close to the trees for too long, Mr. Decker. We're just putting in a walking trail for the kids." I told her straight up it wasn't safe. Messing with the layers could bring a slide if the rain came hard. She rolled her eyes, wandered off for another mimosa. That's the thing about folks like Linda, the power brokers. They're not engineers, not planners, not builders, just dreamers with clipboards making decisions off spreadsheets, not soil and gravity. So I started documenting everything, not for revenge, but out of dread. Set up trail cams, flew my drone every morning, saved every HOA email, highlighted every inconsistency. I'd done it for FEMA, now I did it for myself. Meanwhile, the HOA was out there sending chirpy emails about exciting ridge trail updates and healthy living. No mention of environmental review, no mention of risk. By week 2, the digging was serious. Trees came out like rotten teeth. The whole neighborhood started waking up to the sound of rock grinders. One day, Carla, my neighbor, came by walking her dog. She looked up at the exposed slope and whispered, "That doesn't look right." I said, "If the rain comes heavy, it'll move." She went pale, looking at her house barely 100 feet from the cut. I thought someone signed off on this. I shook my head. If they did, they buried it deep. Still, nobody stopped the project. HOA just kept pushing, hiding behind community improvement and recreation. At the board meeting, they shut down questions. Someone asked about permits, another about erosion. Linda just smiled and said, "We've got it handled." Only they didn't. By week 3, I could hear a hollow echo when I tapped a rod into the ground. A long seam, not a crack yet, started to snake across the slope. Every morning it grew by inches. I found footprints around a collapsed old drainage pipe, part of a ranch system from decades back, now snapped so water would flow right into the new hollow they'd made. You know, people talk about hills like they're gentle things, something to climb to picnic on. But a ridge, especially this one, it's got a memory, and memory doesn't like to be disturbed. I dug up old files, even found a soil report from the 90s on a slope just like this one up in Tacoma. That ridge failed. Family of 5 lost their lives. Same clay, same arrogance. I copied everything, hand-delivered it to the HOA. The office was padlocked for remodeling, so I emailed everyone, board members, city officials, even an old friend at the State Geological Survey. The next day I got a violation notice, unauthorized surveillance equipment on common property. Yeah, apparently my trail cams were a bigger deal than the collapsing ridge. I replied with photos, coordinates, state law. No response. But the next morning some orange stakes had been moved deeper into my land. That's when I started a notebook logging every change, every cut, every shift. It kept me sane. Carla came back this time with her husband Jim, a retired fireman. He saw the gash in the clay and said, "Looks like hell waiting to happen." I nodded. This whole ridge acts like a shelf. Undercut it, gravity does the rest. Jim just snorted. A scenic overlook to watch your own burial. They offered to help, and Jim had contacts downtown. Within a week, I had a copy of the HOA's city construction request unsigned by an engineer claiming no environmental impact. It was a joke. I filed it away, kept building my folder, ridge collapse timeline. Construction plowed ahead. Composite decking went in. Linda posted photos online, board members with shovels, teenagers in HOA t-shirts. Our community is growing stronger every day. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so cruel. One afternoon, Linda strolled by, dog in tow. "Mr. Decker, you really shouldn't spread fear. People are getting anxious." "Good," I said. "They should be." She smiled. "Maybe it's time to move on. You'd get a good price." I looked at the scarred ridge. "Let me know if you're interested after the next rainstorm." Her smile died. The weather turned. Forecast changed from watch to warning. 5 inches of rain expected overnight, maybe more. I waited, lantern-lit, drone-charged notes stacked beside me. The ridge wasn't just a hill. It was a warning. And they'd crossed it. The silence, that slow, deliberate neglect, felt violent, like a fuse burning toward a powder keg. Weeks leading up to the storm, the HOA called me a disruption in their Slack chat. Yeah, I had a copy thanks to Jonah, a young accountant on the board. He'd grown uneasy, saw where things were headed. He started forwarding screenshots, budget cuts to drainage money shifted to benches and lights on ground that could barely hold itself together. I sent another round of letters. Included city codes, unapproved documents, geological surveys. Sent them to the council, the mayor, state offices. No reply, just another notice on my windshield, unauthorized erosion mitigation. Sandbags on my own property. Carla got cited too for planting native shrubs. The HOA wasn't even pretending anymore. The police scanner chirped to life, flash, flood watch, 5 to 8 inches, mudslide potential. I sent one last letter, drone photos attached. If the ridge gives way, people will die. This is documented risk. You are now knowingly liable. No response. So I printed every letter, every warning, laminated them, and dropped them at every neighbor's door quietly, house to house. A few called, some were scared, others skeptical. But fear, I've learned, travels faster than denial. It doesn't need a majority, just momentum. Linda retaliated with a special meeting closed to the public. Jonah called after she wanted a restraining order against me for harassment and damaging property values. I laughed. Property values? She was just gambling the ridge would hold. The night the rain started, it whispered, a polite tap, then a fist. 8 inches by morning, not 5. My scanner erupted at 2:17 a.m., possible landslide, Ridgeline Drive, the new cul-de-sac right under the scar. I grabbed my drone, ran out in the storm, launched it. The ridge had split a wound open, a whole shelf of land sheared away. 3 homes swallowed. 1 roof caved, a foundation missing. The overlook crushed. I called 911, voice calm as stone. I'd warned them. Now the mountain was speaking for itself. You don't forget the sound the ground makes when it breaks. It's not a scream. It's a groan. Low, deep, like something old waking up angry. I heard it before anyone else felt it in my bones. Emergency lights flickered across the rain. My porch had a front row seat to disaster. I pulled on boots, headlamp, grabbed my kit, and headed toward the chaos. It was a war zone, sirens, mud, EMTs hauling Mrs. Voss from her ruined house. A deputy tried to stop me. I filed the geological reports. I said, I have drone footage. You don't have time to argue. He let me through. I wasn't there to be right. I was there because when the earth moves, time matters. Collapses keep coming after the first one. 3 homes gutted, decks upside down, foundation slabs split. Firefighters shouting gas leak, mandatory evacuation. Floodlights flickered on, painting the wreckage in harsh white. There was Linda in her HOA rain jacket, mascara streaming, standing alone, just staring at the wreckage. We locked eyes. Something flickered in her face. Shame, maybe? She turned and walked away. Jonah found me by the drone tent. They're calling it an act of God, he said, bitter. You got proof. I handed him a USB, everything from emails to denial logs. Give this to the state engineers. By dawn, 13 homes were uninhabitable. Dozens more damaged. The HOA said nothing. The silence wasn't power anymore. It was guilt. Media showed up. Helicopters, news vans, the whole circus. Some neighbors held up my laminated warnings. He told them, they said, and they laughed. I didn't go on camera. Not there for fame, just to make sure nobody else died. That afternoon, I sat on my porch, power out ridge, gouged but stable. For the first time, I let myself cry, not out of fear or anger, but because I'd known exactly how it would play out, and still no one had listened. Not the board, not the city, not even the land, until it had no choice. And when the mountains split, it swallowed all the lies whole. There's a sound when land gives up, not thunder, not an explosion, just a slow, deep crack like an ancient bone breaking. Once you've heard it, you never forget. After as FEMA took over, the HOA tried to bar them entry, overruled in minutes. State declared a disaster. Engineers roped off the site, but it was all too late. In disasters, people count homes, lost lives, uprooted, but they can't measure the weight of grief, betrayal, the exhaustion of knowing it didn't have to happen. I held a meeting on my lawn, no gavel, no speeches, just neighbors hungry for answers. 30 people showed, some with mud still on their boots. I showed them the footage, explained what had gone wrong, never once said I told you so, didn't have to. Questions flew about lawsuits, FEMA, insurance. I gave what answers I could promise to help. For the first time in years, people listened not just to me, but to each other. The lawsuits started soon after: negligence, unlawful development, reckless endangerment. The HOA was bankrupted, the board dissolved. Linda refused interviews, caught by reporters only leaving court. The city started talking about real reform, but it was all too late. Neighbors started showing up at my door, some with food, some with apologies, some just wanting to sit. I didn't judge. They'd trusted the wrong people. That was their mistake. Rebuilding was the hard part, knowing how close we'd come to losing everything. A few weeks later, I was called to testify. Not just about the collapse, but about the pattern of neglect. Sat at a long table under fluorescent lights, lawyers flipping through my files. Was this preventable, they asked? Absolutely, I said. The truth doesn't need to shout, it just lands heavy as stone. In court, I laid out the evidence: drone footage, emails, meeting recordings. Played the board meeting where Linda said if the ridge was going to collapse, it would have done it years ago. You could have heard a pin drop when the clip ended. The HOA's insurer dropped them, policy voided for negligence. The board resigned. A new committee formed, and they asked me to help lead the transition. I said yes, just until things stabilized. We brought in real experts, every meeting open, every report public. People apologized. Carla, Jim, even neighbors who once rolled their eyes. I handed Carla the new drainage map. Want to help deliver it? She nodded. The ridge was quiet now, healing no longer weaponized. Maybe that was the first real peace we'd had in years. Then came the criminal charges. Linda indicted for criminal negligence, fraud, reckless endangerment. 3 others faced civil suits. The contractor lost his license. The HOA was finished. We wrote a new charter: no development within 100 feet of the ridge without an independent review, every decision open to audit. But the real difference was in the memorial. We put up a simple wooden sign: "We remember the earth speaks." People came, shared stories of loss, but also of hope. I spoke. I never wanted to lead. I just wanted to be heard. Now I see people listening. That's what makes a neighborhood worth saving. The rain came again that night. Gentle, steady, not a warning this time, just a washing away. I'm still here. Same house, same ridge. Some days I thought of leaving, but then I saw people planting, rebuilding, learning. The land feels honored, not cursed. I started the Ridge Conservancy, an educational space. No HOA branding, just facts and lessons learned. Every Saturday I lead a tour. Kids, neighbors, even folks from other counties. The ripple effect is real. Carla, Jim, Jonah, they're all still part of my life. Linda, last I heard, took a plea deal, community service, banned from HOAs for life. The irony is I don't think she'd listen to herself even now. Our neighborhood's changed. More conversation, more transparency. No more secret meetings, no more midnight crews. We vote on everything. Trust rebuilt inch by inch. A young couple moved in next door. Does the ridge worry you, they asked. Only when we forget it's there, I said. They'll understand in time. The hole left behind wasn't just in the land, it was in trust, in our sense of place. Every day I wake up and tend to this patch filling that hole. One seed, one neighbor, one action at a time. The mountain split, homes fell, the truth came out. We're still here. Because when you finally learn to listen, even broken ground will show you where to stand. So let me ask you, who would you have listened to, the voice in the suit? Or the one with mud on his boots? And what's it going to take for your community to learn before the ground moves under you? If you've got a story or a neighbor worth hearing, share it below, because justice starts with listening, and sometimes that's the only thing that saves us.